Yeah, with great pleasure, I am going to introduce our first speaker. This is someone that I personally have learned so much from for the last 5 years, I think 5 or 6 years that I've known him. I've learned so much from him. He's an incredible person. He laughs and jokes, and actually he gets away with so much and gets away with saying certain things that nobody else would be able to get away with saying, but still with the love and affection that he gives everyone, he, you know, is just gets away with it for some reason. I don't know what it is, Ram, but whatever it is, you get away with it. But as much as he laughs and jokes, he's got this heart, and if anyone that really understands him understands that he's got this love and affection and this knowledge on how to love Srila Gurudev, and that's something that I've encaptured and seen within him for many years, and it's not just a one time, you know, situation. I've seen him many times, and whenever he recites any scriptures or anything that he does is always orientated on pleasing Srila Gurudev, and that has always been his main focus. So he doesn't really need an introduction because pretty much the whole world knows him, but nonetheless, I shall introduce our first speaker. He is our dear God brother, Sriman Ramananda Prabhu.
Whoa.
Jai Ho.
Testing 1, 2, 3. The famous words. Can you hear me?
Can you come a bit closer because you sound a bit faint?
Oh, man, I have to move. Spent 5 hours doing this setup.
Yeah, that's perfect. You don't have to come that close.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to live up to that introduction and say things that I will somehow hopefully get away with. Thank you very much. Ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tvamaham vande Shri Gurum dinatarinim. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. First of all, I'm going to show you my t-shirt because you can't see it. Hold on. Ta-da! Okay. And second of all, I offer my most humble Dandvat Pranam unto the lotus feet of my Paramaradhyatama Gurudev, Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajikacharya, Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta, Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, and beg for his causeless mercy and his heartly blessings. Thereafter also, because it's his centennial festival as well, Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajikacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta, Vaman Goswami Maharaj, who is non different from our Srila Gurudev. Thereafter unto Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, my Param Gurudev, and also my Param Gurudev Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And because of those two, my Gurudev has come into my world. I offer my Dandat Pranam to the entire Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, all Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, everyone from the past, present, and future, Facebook, Zoom, and YouTube, my Dandavat Pranamas. So, Yash made me move my notes because they were in between myself and the laptop. So, here we go. On one hand, it's impossible to glorify Srila Gurudev, speak of his glories by any mortal being. And whenever we hear about the wonderful feats of Srila Gurudev, everything he's done, is like, what can I possibly say? But on the other hand, what is the most inspiring actually for me is whenever I hear devotees speak about their relationship with Gurudev, even though it may be mixed in with mundane worldly stories, that is the most attractive for me. I remember when I went to Kartik for the first time, the first few times actually, Srivas Prabhu was just a little boy. He had this thing that, first of all, we'd be very naughty. We'd go on top of the buses on Parikrama days. Instead of sitting in the bus, we'd sit on top of the bus and lie down so the senior devotees wouldn't see us. And then when we drive off, you could actually see Braj. But what we do on top of the bus with our friends would ask each other, how did you meet Srila Gurudev? And even though we were in Braj, speaking about the greatest, most intimate pastimes of Radha Krishna Jugala Kishore, these pastimes of how our friends met Srila Gurudev were the ones that stirred our hearts, were what inspired us to actually be on Parikrama, and what's actually touching my heart. Because I don't know who Radha and Krishna are, even though I was there in their pastime places. Even though we go to Navadvip and we see Mahaprabhu's birthplace, it's so beautiful. But when we come together and speak about how we met Srila Gurudev, and including our horrible material lives into that, we can relate to it. And so these Zoom classes remind me of those meetings sitting on top of the bus with Srivas and asking every random disciple of Gurudev, hey, how did you meet Gurudev? So I'm very grateful for this amazing arrangement that allows us to do this. And it's like, it's not just something newly made up. In Brihad Bhagavatamritam, we see Gop Kumar, Mathura Brahman, they also, when they speak, they always relate their own personal relationship with Gurudev to inspire others. So I hope that somehow or another, my material self-glorification, which I love to do, I'm not going to deny it, is going to be entertaining enough for you to feel inspired about Srila Gurudev. And hopefully that you will see how glorious Gurudev is. By me glorifying myself here for 20 minutes, hopefully you'll see Gurudev's glory in that someone like me can somehow still be attracted to him. That's my goal. And with that, I pray for your blessings that I can continue making everyone laugh. That was my main thing with Gurudev also, which I'll come back to later. I was definitely laughed at a lot. Okay, so I guess we'll start glorifying myself with when I was 10 years old. 10 years old, we were going to Brahm Rishi mission. I won't go into explaining all that, but we were following a guru there, reciting Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, and doing yoga and all kinds of things here and there. And I also was part of the Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, which you have in England and India as well. And my mother, she received mantra in the Brahm Rishi mission. And she was chanting this mantra. It was a specific mantra, actually, because you can go there and ask a mantra based on what you would want to attain. And she had asked for a mantra that would unite the family in bhakti. This is what she had asked for, and this is the mantra she was chanting. She was the only one chanting. We were not into chanting. But somehow, because of that, we started going to this Brahm Rishi mission, learning about Ramachandra and many other of the devatas. And my father, while this was happening, one day met the devotees on the streets in The Hague. They used to come from Radhadesh in this big white van with a big painting of Srila Prabhupada on the side of the van. I remember seeing that van and always being impressed, like, who are these saffron cloth guys? Anyway, my dad met them and bought the entire Srimad Bhagavatam set the first time he saw them, put it in the house, and it stayed there for a while. Started reading Bhagavad Gita. Long story short, we started going to the ISKCON temple, and 92 we joined. We moved nearby, and a little community was made. I can do with this mantra. A little community was made, and yeah, we started going to the ISKCON temple. We got really involved. I learned so much there. I have nothing but gratitude for all the devotees there. Brought me to so much deeper and higher understandings that I could never even imagine. Nothing, no regrets whatsoever. It was absolutely amazing. But then in 1995, something magical happened. Quite a few magical things happened in 95, actually. The year started off with Maria crying blood in Italy, which was quite magical. Hundreds of people went to see it. And in that year, many Maria deities were crying blood. Then on top of that, not literally on top of that, but also Ganesh and Shiva in 1995 were drinking milk. Peoples were lining up in temples all over the world putting a spoon of milk to the mouth of Ganesh and Shiva, and they were drinking it. So a very magical time. Then in 1995 was also the very first Rath Yatra in Holland ever organized. And on the evening before the Rath Yatra, I went to help decorate the Rath Yatra chariot. Unknown to me, on the grounds of where we're decorating Rath Yatra chariot was also a big hall where Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj was about to give class that very same evening, of which I had absolutely no idea. So while decorating the chariot, first of all, this huge black devotee runs in and starts singing very loudly out of nowhere, Govinda Bhakata, also known as Sripad Ashram Maharaj now, which first of all scared me. And then Bhakta Sarup, Raghunath, Bhatta Prabhu, a whole bunch of devotees, perhaps Raghu Pandit Prabhu was there as well. I don't remember seeing him at that point. And they were all singing and dancing. And then this car comes in, and a path of flower petals was made from the car all the way to the hallway. This door opened and there's a shower of flowers, and Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj steps out of the car. And something happened, something I had never ever experienced before. Something inside me just, I don't know what happened, but I was making garlands on the Rath. Everyone else around me continued doing their service, and I dropped my service and I just ran. And I don't know what it was. And I followed all the devotees inside the hall, and there was this humongous Guru Puja for Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, which was quite shocking for me because I was taught to always give pranam to the Gurus from the back so that their false ego wouldn't increase and they'd fall down. But here were devotees rubbing their heads on his feet constantly. And there was no pranam from the back. It was all on the front, falling on his feet. So I was quite shocked and amazed by the way a guru was worshipped to start with. And then there was this amazing Guru Puja. He sang Jai Radha Madhu. He was about to give class, and then my temple president came in and picked all of us out to go back to perform our service, and I actually missed his class. But when I went back home that evening, I told my dad, we have to go Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And I had the flyer, he's going to be here tomorrow, we have to go. And so we went and we kept going. And this first meeting of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj became very important, and still is very important in the way I respect Vaishnavas, regardless of what group they may be in, and which has saved me from missing out on the association of Srila Bhakti Ballabh Tirtha Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Kamal Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and so many more will be there, and so many more I've missed out. But I was 13 years old when this happened. And so this meeting with Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was, even though very short, but it changed something in me and created this whole thing that I should not be sectarian. Otherwise, I'll miss out on the association. Even Srila Radha Govinda Maharaj, so many Vaishnavas I would miss out on. And this is what I feel I have learned from Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj's association in 1995. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj then also, and I learned from his disciples, he spoke about Kanupriya Goswami, who made this prediction that in 1996, the Prema Yuga would start. I don't know why I added in the Marias crying, Ganesh and Shiva drinking milk, and Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj saying next year, the Prema Yuga will start. All of this, I think, was just showing us the beginning of what is about to happen. 1996, the Prema Yuga will start. And to be honest, most of us were thinking Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would finally come out and fully take over or be established as Acharya, something like that. We didn't know what it was, but 1996 became very, very significant. Raghu Pandit Prabhu confirmed. Very, very significant for us. And we're all looking out what's going to happen in 1996 because of everything that already happened in 95. So 96, I turned 14. Won't go into what happened then, but something significant happened, which is one day, and I have to thank Bhakta Surup also, but Brajanath Prabhu, somehow or another, he went around all the temples in Holland and he put 2 books on all the bookshelves, Nectar of Govinda Lila and Going Beyond Vaikuntha. And he also, at the beginning of the year, 96, put flyers into all the mailboxes of the temples. 2-page flyers, one of them depicting the relationship of Srila Gurudeva and Srila Prabhupada, and the next, a bunch of addresses of where the programs are going to be when he comes in May. And he very beautifully explained, for some reason they chose Comic Sans as a letter type, which normally you wouldn't take seriously, but it was still a very serious conversation. It's a very serious topic, and I bet it wasn't Raghu Pandit who wrote that. He would never do that. A very beautiful description of how Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada met, how Prabhupada explained that their relationship is based on eternal love, cannot be broken. Everything that Srila Gurudev did in sending deities, sending mridangas, fighting the court case from Prabhupada's son, materially speaking, into being requested to place Srila Prabhupada in Samadhi, and all these things were described. And then the next page, this day, Srila Narayana Maharaj will be speaking at this person's house, that person's house, and it was like a schedule of 2 weeks, I think, of house programs. And so on the glorious 5th of May, 1996, which is Liberation Day in Holland from the Germans. Any Germans here? Madhuvrat Prabhu, Haribo. We celebrated the liberation from the Germans, the end of the Second World War. And on that very day, Liberation Day, Srila Gurudev set foot on Western soil for the first time ever in this Brahmanda, in this creation. And arriving in Amsterdam airport, he came to Bovenleven, which is Brajanath Prabhu's house. And I didn't go because when I was in the temple one evening after the ISKCON temple, after the Sunday program, all guests have gone, we're all sitting, just the congregation. One devotee comes, look what I found in the mail. We all started reading it. And then somebody comes, oh, you know what? I've seen a book on the bookshelf of this Maharaj. And this was the very first picture I ever saw of Srila Gurudev. And when I looked at that picture, it's like, wow, his clothes are not ironed. Not offending anyone that wears ironed clothes, by the way, but it stood out to me that his clothes weren't ironed. He wasn't sitting on a big Vyasasan, and his feet, in fact, his whole body was covered in dust. He's like very one with nature there, which was very attractive to me. And something inside me, again, I did not know what that feeling was, but it reminded me of when I saw Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And I didn't know what that feeling was when I met Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, but it was something new. And that feeling came up again when I saw Srila Gurudev's picture. And I decided I have to go see him. We were told that he was not in the same sampradaya as Prabhupada, even though the pamphlet explained that he has the exact same guru as Prabhupada. He was there for the Sarya ceremony of Prabhupada. Prabhupada asked him to put him in Samadhi. It was completely ridiculous, but still somehow or another, we were told he was not in the same sampradaya. So I had some doubt. It's like, oh, okay. I still go and see him. And I saw on the flyer that Srila Gurudev was going to be speaking in the Sevadham Mandir in The Hague, which was 2 minutes walking from where I was living. Down the road, around the corner, there he would be the program. You know how people always say Sri Gurudev comes to you, not you to him? That was really true. He came all the way from India to a temple, 2 minutes walking from where I was. And I decided to go that day and see him. But I was a bit doubtful because I was told he was in a different sampradaya. So I put on my big Prabhupada shirt, like I have my Gurudev shirt now. I put on my Prabhupada shirt there to establish this is where I belong. I am a follower of Srila Prabhupada. I'm coming to see you. This is what I was saying with the shirt, but I follow Srila Prabhupada. And for some weird reason, I decided to make a garland. I had never made a garland for anyone else but Srila Prabhupada and Radha Gopinath. And I decided to make a garland for Srila Gurudev. And I made a garland for my father as well to give to Srila Gurudev. Also, I would never ever make a garland for my father to give anyone. But for some reason I did. And I came to the Sevadham Mandir early. And I was standing outside with my garland. In my memory, nobody else was there. Everybody else was inside. It wasn't like people crowding around Gurudev at all. And Gopinath Prabhu arrived in his fancy car. Every year he had a different car to pick up Gurudev. So he comes. Gurudev comes out of the car. And when I saw him, the second I saw him, I knew he was my guru. He hadn't spoken a single word to me. He hadn't even looked at me. He just came out of the van and I knew it. That it was like Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj coming out of the car that day, and it was Srila Gurudev coming out of the car, and it's like that's it. He's my Gurudev. And I came towards him and I went to give him the garland, and his first words were, no. He said, wait, give me the garland inside. And I was like, well, I was thinking why? And it made sense, because if he would have arrived in the temple already wearing a garland, like he came to the temple with the garland on, it's like a bit like, you know, not really humble. Because there was nobody else outside, it would have been like he arrived with the garland on. This is what I'm thinking, why he probably said no. Or maybe that was really what I needed to hear. My first words should have been no. So I kept the garland and went inside, and I gave him the garland there, like everyone else. And it was a huge reception, and pretty much all the devotees that I saw when I saw Srila Gurudeva Maharaj in 95, on the day before Rath Yatra, all of them were there as well, which I didn't need another indication to show me that this is where I need to be, but you know, it was a nice extra cherry on top. And Srila Gurudeva sat and he spoke Prahlad Charitra, beautiful pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj Hiranyakashipu, in such a way I had never ever heard before. Was fully attracted to Srila Gurudeva. And in my mind, I had decided whether Gurudeva actually looked me up and down and saw my Prabhupada t-shirt and didn't say anything. In that moment, I decided I don't care which sampradaya he is in. I don't care if he's a Sahaja. I don't care if he's the next Sai Baba. I am going to follow him. He is my Gurudev. Is that one of those things I hopefully get away with, Yash? So that there and then I decided he is my Gurudev. Luckily, my father felt the same way, and invited him to come to our ISKCON temple and speak. I won't go into what happened exactly there, because that's not really PG, but we decided to follow Srila Gurudev everywhere he went after that. And we came to England with him. Very funny, interesting. How long do I have? Okay, what very funny, interesting that happened is when we decided to go to England, we were going to go to the Eurotunnel, which is closed, by the way, because nobody of the world wants to have anything to do with England. We got that evening, we were going to leave like 1, 2 a.m. to go to England, and we still had 15 minutes or 20 minutes to go. I was ready to go. I decided to turn on the TV in the middle of the night. And when I turned the TV on, I went to MTV, and Krishna Kantabru, Kula Shekhar, was actually on TV. That very moment, I turned on TV right before I was going to go to see Gurudev, and he was interviewing Gurudev. Like MTV had this program where any celebrity could take anyone anywhere of the famous places, and he decided to take the camera crew to Vrindavan, Mathura Vrindavan, to see Gurudev. And the first thing I saw was Srila Gurudeva explaining. The question was asked by Krishna Kanta Prabhu, what is the benefit for anyone to come to Vrindavan or in your association? And Gurudev's answer was, if someone goes into water, they must be, Gurudev used the word wetted. They will become wet. Whether they understand or not what's happening, they will become wet. And so, looking back, I understand when I went to England to see Gurudev, even though not fully understanding what he was giving, not understanding, still somehow or another, I was wetted. Some mercy was given there. Later, he decided to show me in 2003 in Spain that just sitting in association in class is not enough, and he made me stand up and repeat exactly what was being said in class. And when I couldn't, he pointed out that this is not sadhu sangha. He gave both. Slowly he built up everything, first showing me that just being in his presence is already beneficial, and then pointing out that not studying what he's speaking, not being able to repeat what he's giving, is not actually sadhu sangha. And both of these can be harmonized very easily. It's just, you know, slowly building up my understanding. Anyway, we went to England, and in England, we asked Srila Gurudev for initiation. Again, he said no. It's my thing, probably. He said no to everything. Initiations, marriage proposals, study, everything was no, 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 no. Anyway, I hope somebody's laughing on that one. That was a very, you know, expensive joke. I'll have to pay for that later. Anyway, went to England, and we asked, are you okay, Yash? Okay. Went to England and asked for initiation, and Gurudev said no. You know what he said? He said, you have to ask your authority for permission. And we're like, he's going to say no. The temple president is not happy with us at all. I already told you the PG bit that the non-PG bit that I skipped. I couldn't tell that to Gurudev. So we didn't tell Gurudev that that's not a good idea. And then Gurudev saw our disappointment. And Gurudev said, don't worry, this is formality. The most important thing is you have accepted me and I have accepted you. And so I was a bit pleased, very pleased that, okay, that relationship is established. And then we had to come back to Holland. We went to the temple president's house. Long story short, we asked, smart thing, my father first asked, could we see the final instruction video? So he put the video on of Srila Prabhupada being put in Samadhi by Srila Gurudev himself. And after that, my father asked for permission from the temple president if he could take initiation. And it was no for a million different reasons. My father called the GBC certain words that I can't repeat over here. Thank you, that's the link of the video I saw. My father said some words, calling them certain things. First of all, Srila Gaudiya Maharaj, now him, what's the point of me being here? If any Mahabhagavad that comes is not allowed, I'm out. And the temple president stood up and said, I do not tolerate people speaking like this about my authorities. And big fight, everybody stood up, we left. And we came to Gurudev. The beautiful thing was in 1996. Srila Gurudev came to Holland. He went to England, came back to Holland, went to America, came back to Holland. The same thing Sripad Siddhanti Maharaj, Sripad Ban Maharaj do nowadays. Go everywhere, but keep coming back to Holland. And so Gurudev did that. So when he came back from England, in his second stop in Holland, but in the same year, we received Harinam initiation, and that was the beginning of the end. That's how it all began. 1996, received initiation. And so my father was very happy, my brother also, but my mother, she has always been very skeptical. Remember how I said in the beginning, she received the mantra for the family to be united in bhakti. Well, what she saw instead, after she chanted that mantra, was me, when we joined ISKCON, building a separate altar next to her altar with the devtas, a little bit higher, with Radha Krishna, Panchatattva, Nrsingadeva, etc., the typical standard altar, but a little bit higher. And I was doing my arti and then offer my arti remnants to the demigods because I was better. And so instead of being united in bhakti, we had two separate altars in the same temple room. So my mother was a bit confused, never really liked us going to the temple, even though we lived across the road from the ISKCON temple. We were the same street. And my father kind of stopped in 95 after what happened with Srila Gaudiya Maharaj. He was not really interested anymore. So I was the only one that was still going. And my mother was kind of okay with this. But in 1996, when we started going to Srila Gurudev, my mother was more expressing her difficulty with us actually going to a different place. Because she was actually drawn towards Srila Gurudev. It was the first time that she was actually drawn towards someone. In fact, I remember in one darshan, Gurudev saying to my mother, you are trying to not give your heart to me. I see you are trying to conceal your heart. And then Gurudev said, but I will take by force. Which left my mother crying because she had already taken initiation somewhere else. And she's like, how can I? So she went back to the Brahmrishi mission and she approached the Guru that had given her this mantra. And she said, what's happening? She explained everything. I don't know what to do. You gave me this mantra and this is what's happening. And the Guru, the Brahmrishi mission Guru, he said, what did you ask for in this mantra? And she said, I asked in this mantra for our family to be united in bhakti. And the Guru said, well, he can give you bhakti, so go there. So after this, Brahmrishi told my mother that he can give you bhakti, her path was clear. And she came to Gurudev, received Harinam, received Diksha and everything, and was happy. And we were finally actually, for a while, united in bhakti. My mother started chanting mantras and everything, and it was amazing. Then one year, Gurudev came, and I will finish slowly off with this because Yashodanandan is chewing, which means he's hungry. I know the feeling. One year during a festival, the festivals were amazing. 1996 till 2003, we had these separate festivals in Europe. We'd have one in Holland, we'd have one in England, in France, in Italy, one time in Spain. Like we had a month of Gurudev in the summer. It was absolutely amazing. Then we decided to have, from 2004 onwards, there were one in Europe only. And so it was Italy, Spain, No, sorry, not Spain, Italy. Yes, these festivals were amazing. And Holland as well. So one of the festivals, my mother said to Gurudev, Gurudev, I miss you. And Gurudev's answer was, you miss me? Have I not given you mantra? Are you chanting the mantras I've given you? Then how can you miss me? So this stopped me from ever saying to Gurudev, I miss you, obviously. But it did create a little understanding that, hey, Gurudev is more than just that person that would come. He was training us already from the beginning, because we would see him at the beginning of the year in Germany, January every winter, then in the summer in Europe, then and Navadvip and Kartik as well. But in between, most of our lives were without Gurudev. And whenever Gurudev would come to us in festivals, he would always say at the end of the festival, oh, when I go, I hear all of you become weak. But you should remember, I'm always with you. Don't be hopeless. He was already, there are devotees that were constantly with Gurudev, and for them I can understand, like Sanjay Prabhu, he was expressing in one of his Zoom classes how even though everyone's saying Gurudev is fully present, I am experiencing some pain when everybody says, why are you feeling separation? He's gone. He's not gone. Why did he say he's not gone? I still feel some. But for a lot of us, it's different, because we only saw Gurudev once or twice, maximum 4 times a year. And because of this, we were already trained. For me, it is like we are waiting for Navadvip Parikrama, or this summer, Gurudev is going to come and there's a festival. For the last 10 years, I'm not feeling like Srila Gurudev is gone. I'm just like, we're in an in-between period. It's a bit longer than most ones, but we're in an in-between period before we meet Srila Gurudev again. And that's it with missing Srila Gurudev. I think it shouldn't be, but this is me personally, and I can't say this for anyone else, is that he is fully, completely present in everything that we do. And it's never like one last story, and then I promise I'll stop, is one time in Navadvip, because sometimes we get the feeling, oh, we cannot access Gurudev. He's always surrounded by so many people. And now we even he's probably in a different dimension. I don't know how to get to him. But one time in Navadvip, I was thinking this, and there were 10,000 people. And it was just a few hours before I was going to leave and come back to, at that time, Holland. And I was just walking around the Navadvip temple being sad that I couldn't have a moment personally with Srila Gurudev. Now, while I was thinking this, somehow I looked into one corner while looking around, and this wasn't even Srila Gurudev's room. And somehow I went into Zoom vision. Everything else around me disappeared. And I looked down this very long hallway. And at the other side of the hallway was Srila Gurudev sitting in a beautiful wooden chair with just 2-3 devotees around him. That very second when I thought that. And I went there, I spoke with him. He told me a bunch of things. Of course, I don't remember most of it, but may need to go back to your country, bring back people, and never forget me, these things. And it was so easily to have access to Srila Gurudev. And I believe that this access is still there in these Zoom meetings, in Kishori Mohan Sudevi giving classes every day. So many people going online and offline doing so many services. Srila Gurudev is fully accessible, and there's no way that we can think he's not there. Everything Vaishnava Charitra Sarvada Pavitra. Everything Srila Yashodanand is rolling his eyes. I'm going to stop soon. Vaishnava Charitra Sarvada Pavitra. Whatever a Vaishnava does is always pure. His appearing is for our benefit. His disappearing is also for our benefit, for our well-being. And if it wasn't for these meetings where we discuss Srila Gurudev's glories, then the pain that we feel from this separation wouldn't be able to be used as fuel to burn our anarthas and to bring us closer to Srila Gurudev. So I pray to all of you Vaishnavas here, present and watching later, or maybe not watching at all, for your mercy, for your blessings, that I can realize the presence of Srila Gurudev in my heart, always with me, and that I can serve him with your blessings. Srila Gurudev ki jai.
As always, expertly describing Srila Gurudev and his glories. I just wanted to, the last couple of things that you said at the end about Srila Gurudev being always present, and us glorifying him enables us to see the depth and height of what Srila Gurudeva is. When you're a baby like me and you see a mountain from far, you think it's easily reachable. And in Shastras, it's described that when you get closer to that mountain and you look up, you almost fall backwards, or your hat falls backwards. So this is the glories of Srila Gurudeva, is that every time you get a step closer, you're starting to look up, and then you realize your own position. So thank you for reminding me of that and getting me that one step closer. There's so many things that I could say about your glorifications, but I know that we're waiting on Sudevi Didi to speak now. So thank you so much, Ramananda Prabhu, for sharing a piece of your heart with us.
Hey, Ramananda Prabhu, I loved your story of your mum. It reminded me of something out of the Rasamrita. It was like, I can imagine that story. And you know why Gurudev came to Holland first and came to Holland twice on his first tour?
Twice.
3 times. You know why?
After America as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know the reason?
No, tell me.
They needed more mercy.
I'm happy we did.
Haribol, thanks, Ramananda. That was beautiful. Really beautiful.